Well, welcome back to the Pro Body Lifestyle Podcast. I'm your host, Janos Prochuk, with my lovely wife, Melissa Prochuk. Today, we're going to be talking about all things nutrition. So this is a massive topic that when we get clients who are new, who come on to us, don't come on to us, but they come and join us, they've got so many things that they're confused about with nutrition, and there's just so many things that they're focusing on. Like there's just, what do I do with my calories? What are macronutrients? What do I do with my protein, my fats, my carbs? Micronutrients, I'm not sure what to do to optimize those. Meal timing, like when do I eat my meals, the right things? And then supplements. They have so many questions about what supplements they need to be taking. So as you can see, there's a lot of different things you can focus on in nutrition. But the thing is that a lot of people, they try and focus on optimizing these things out of order, not realizing that if you actually optimize them in order, then you don't even have to do all of them and focus on everything. So it removes a lot of overwhelm.
Yeah, I feel like people overcomplicate nutrition a lot and focus on the wrong things first, like you were saying. And I think that's why this episode is going to be so great, because we're going to talk about the hierarchy of what's really important, to focus on the foundations first, not to focus on the top of the pyramid. And that's what we're going to talk about, is the nutrition pyramid. And whenever we have new clients come in, we always break down on the whiteboard this pyramid. And we might just put a photo up here on the video if you're watching, just to show you what truly matters. A lot of clients come to us and ask us first, what supplements should I be taking? When should I eat certain meals? What should I be doing here, etc. Those are really important things. However, if you're not doing the foundations of your nutrition plan properly, then none of those things matter. So today we're going to take you step by step. There's 5 parts to the pyramid that we really think is the most important. And if you feel a bit confused with your nutrition right now, we really recommend you come back to this nutrition pyramid, work from the bottom and work your way up again and go in that order.
Yeah, it's super important to build the foundations first and then to build on the foundations. So we've talked about in a previous episode that masters never stop doing the basics. They simply build on them. So there's a reason that they're called the foundations, is because they're the foundation to everything that you'll do. So with nutrition, it's the same thing, where a lot of people, they get overwhelmed, they get overcomplicated, and they think fat loss is so hard, and it's really not. It's very simple to do in principle to achieve fat loss, but it's hard in execution. And a lot of it comes because people get sidetracked by social media. Yep. They see a lot of different things online of people saying, hey, you got to eat high fat. No, eat low fat. No, you got to eat high protein. No, you got to eat low protein. No, you got to do this. And so you see so many different conflicting points of view. But the reality is that if all of them can work, then they're not working for those specific reasons. Because if only high fat diets work or low fat diets work, then if there was an example of someone who lost weight with a low fat diet, then it means that it doesn't work, right? Like it means that like there's more than, like that can't be the only answer if there's somebody else apart from that that's getting the same results.
Yeah, and I feel like in older generations, there used to be a lot of those diets where it was like the only going by the keto diet or the no carb diet or whatever they were. Like there was all these different, the Atkins diet. So if you remember those diets, they're not great. But I think the main thing that losing weight comes down to is focusing on a calorie deficit. And if you're not sure what a calorie deficit is, we'll go through that today. But calories and your energy intake through your food and your drinks is the most important foundation of weight loss. If you're not doing that step correctly, who cares what supplements you're taking? Who cares what time of day you're eating? Who cares what macros you're eating? It all comes down to your energy balance.
Yeah, no, that's super, super efficient. So I think to start with, at the very start, we'll go through each level of the pyramid and we'll explain what is important in each level, and remember that they're foundational. So it means that as we start to move through this podcast into each different level, you can't stop doing the things that were foundational. So if you stop doing the calories and then you focus on the meal timing and when you're eating your meals, if you optimize that, but then you start eating too many calories, then you're not going to be losing weight because you've forgotten the foundations.
Yeah, I think foundations in every area of life is so important. Like think about training in the gym. When we have a beginner start with us, we're not going to hook them up to the cable machine and go, okay, let's do a cable Romanian deadlift right now. We start with basics. We don't even add resistance to these clients. We start with level 1 and work them up to the top. The same thing with nutrition. A lot of our clients, even who have been with us for many years, sometimes when clients are like, Mel, my weight is fluctuating on the scales, or I don't know what's going wrong, or I just feel a bit lost with with my nutrition right now, we bring them right back to this and ask them that question. How are your calories right now? That is step one. So the bottom of the pyramid is your calories.
Yep. So level 1, the calories, the foundation. First thing is, what is calories? What even is a calorie?
Oh, you're asking me.
Yeah.
Calories is just another word for energy. Like I like to break it down that simply for our clients. And your body requires a certain amount of energy per day just to survive. Not to even do your workouts and to do other things. It's just to live, breathe, and do your normal bodily functions.
Yeah. So you've probably heard of the term metabolism, and a lot of people, they get confused thinking, oh, I've got a fast metabolism, I've got a slow metabolism. What is a metabolism? Essentially, what the metabolism is it's just a fancy word used to describe how much energy, calories, it costs your body to survive. Mm-hmm. So if you have a fast metabolism, it just means that it costs more energy to run your body, and that's why you have a faster metabolism. So it means your body is metabolizing or using more calories to run each day.
Yes.
If you have a smaller physique, right, or you're not as big as somebody else, you might have a bit of a slower metabolism. And what that means is that you've just got slightly less energy that it requires to run your body on a day-to-day basis. Mm-hmm. So really, regardless of what your metabolism is, you just need to know that you have a certain number that your body needs to use to run your body.
Yes.
If you eat more calories than that number, so let's just put a random number out there. If your body has a maintenance calories of, or a metabolism of 2,000 calories, meaning if you eat 2,000 calories, your body will stay the same weight. Then if you eat more than that, and I ate, let's say 3,000 calories, then your body's like, great, I've got extra calories that I don't need today to run my body. So I'm gonna store that extra 1,000 calories as body fat. But then on the other hand, if I'm like, oh, you know what? I have a day where I can't find much food. I'm not a very good hunter back in the day, and I only eat 1,500 calories. Well, it still costs 2,000 calories to run your body. So that's what we call a calorie deficit, meaning you're not eating enough calories for how much your body needs to maintain. But then there's a survival mechanism we have, which is our stored body fat. Like, we just don't like the look of it, but it's there for a reason, like a bank account, for us to now use extra 500 calories to make up the difference. So if I only ate 1,500 for the day, and my body needs 2,000 to maintain, to survive, then my body will take 500 from my fat stores and use those calories from my body fat, which is just stored fat, which is just stored calories.
Yeah, great points. I think another thing to remember about your calories is don't just look at your daily calories. Look, it's a weekly calorie intake that we've broken down into 7 days. So for example, like Janos was saying, if your maintenance calories, the calories you were to eat to stay the exact same weight throughout the entire week, if you ate just a little bit under there, maybe at 1,500 calories, you can't just eat at 1,500 calories for one day and then eat over that number, over the 2,000 every other day and expect to lose weight. It's an overall intake of the entire week. And that's why whenever a lot of our clients, maybe they have an off day with their eating, maybe they have a great day with their eating. When we look at their data for the week, what we do is we look at their average weight loss of the 7 days, we look at their average calorie intake, and we can go, hey, like just because you ate well for 2 days, when we do the average of your entire calorie intake of the week divided by 7, you're actually eating slightly over your maintenance calories. And then they go, oh, just because I had 2 days good does not mean anything. I'm like, unfortunately, no. So it's really important to make sure that if you are wanting to lose weight, you have to be in a consistent calorie deficit, but it doesn't have to be too low as well. I know a lot of our female clients in the past, maybe I'd say like 5-6 years ago, there was this, or maybe it's still around, but this kind of fad of being like, I'm going to eat 1,100 to 1,200 calories, depending on the person. So like, for example, if I ate 1,200 calories, I would die. I'd get so hungry. For my height, for my muscle mass, that's just way too low for me. Some people go way too low, which is really hard to be consistent with. And then they end up binging a few days later. You'd rather go in a calorie deficit that you're able to control, that you're able to still make sure you're hitting your macronutrients and to make sure you still have enough energy as well to maintain this deficit over a long period of time.
Yeah, that's right. And I think this is another place where people like start to ask like, okay, but what about the types of foods? Like, doesn't that matter? Like, like what if it's more fats, carbs, protein? Like, doesn't that matter? And one of the things we always try and remind people is that calories is just measuring the amount of energy in any food that you eat. So by just focusing on the calories is a very simple way to start. you're just focusing on the energy content of how much foods cost.
Yes.
So I like to relate it to finances, where it's kind of like finances for the body. It's just like reverse savings. So every day it counts, even if you're not tracking it. So as you're spending money, like there's nothing wrong with spending more some days and spending less some days, but it's about what does that bank account balance look like by the end of the week.
Yeah.
So like you were saying, you can have some days where you're eating in a deficit, you're doing really well, and you've got, great, I had 500 calories that I had to take from my body fat because I was under. Then another day, 500 calories from my body fat, so now I'm 1,000 under. But then if the next day I went 1,000 over, then I've just put an extra 1,000 calories back into my body fat.
Yes.
And so then I'm not going to be losing any body fat.
I think that's a great point. Another point to remember is, and a lot of our clients kind of have a light bulb moment when I remind them about this, is you can still put on weight with healthy food. Because a lot of clients will come to us and be like, no, I eat really healthy. I have no doubt that you eat healthy, but you also may be having too much of your healthy food. Like, for example, you may be having too much chicken breast, too much broccoli. Your body doesn't get to a point where it's about to go over its calories for the day, and it goes, oh, you know what? She had some extra broccoli. Because it's healthy, I won't store it as body fat because she was good. It doesn't work like that. Every food that you consume has a certain cost. And yes, healthy food is incredible. We want to eat healthy food. However, even if that cost is too much and you're having too much of a higher portion of that food, your body still goes, yes, thanks. I only need 2,000, for example, 2,000 calories per day. You've given me 2,500 of healthy food. I don't need that extra 500, so I'm going to store it as body fat, even if it's healthy food. So I think I like to remind myself of that a lot as well, because I know in the past, like early 20s, I would say this to myself. I'd be like, I would cut out all sugars and all these different things and go through those kind of crazy diets. And then I'd be like, I'm only going to eat healthy food. But then I'd eat so much of it that I'm like, oh, I'm kind of staying the exact same weight all the time. So I was eating quite on a maintenance without realizing just because you eat healthy food does not guarantee that you're going to lose weight, put on weight, etc. It all comes down to the balance of your calories. But we're going to get into next is what your calories are made up of.
Yeah. And I think as well with the calories, just staying on that, because this is the foundational layer
this is
that
very
matters
important.
The most. A lot of people might be thinking that okay, well, I'm eating really good quality foods. Why am I not losing the weight? And that's where we get them to track the calories. And it's like, okay, when you're nailing the calories, you might be thinking, oh, you know what, but I've tried tracking my calories and I was consistent and I wasn't losing weight. Well, sometimes what that means is, number one, first of all, I like to just ask my clients, did you really track correctly? Mm-hmm. So as long as you actually are tracking correctly, because if you're not, then that's the first thing, is just track correctly. But once you are tracking correctly, if you're not losing weight, then sometimes what it means is that you might have estimated your metabolism, or you might have used a calculator on the internet to estimate your metabolism was 2,000, but it's just an estimation. So if your body is not 2,000 calories as the maintenance, but it was actually 1,500, then you thought you were in a calorie deficit, but because your body was maintaining and it wasn't losing body fat, it just means that you were eating at maintenance for the amount of level of your metabolism that it currently is.
Yeah.
If you're finding that you're tracking and you're not losing weight on the current calories that you're targeting, first of all, check, am I tracking correctly? If you're not, fix that first. But if you are tracking correctly, that's where you can reduce your calorie goal, your target, by 100 or 200 calories and test for the next week to see if you then lose weight.
I think that's something I like to remind my clients of is don't be half in. If you are going to go, okay, I'm going to eat at this certain calorie mark. Yes, tracking can be a bit tedious sometimes and time consuming, but if you go all in and track everything properly to the exact gram, it means you can actually change your weight so much quicker and know what data you're working with so much quicker, instead of being half in and being like, oh, I guess I can't lose weight, or I guess I'm not in a calorie deficit. You might not be. It might just be the smallest change you need to make. But because you're half in and not tracking everything correctly to the exact gram, you don't know where you're currently sitting. And that's actually a really confusing spot to be in. I would rather be all in or all out than that half in, because when you're half in, you're kind of getting results, but you're not. But then you also still feel guilty about not getting results and eating certain foods. And then you also want to be out and having the fun foods. You're half in both sides.
Yeah.
And I think another thing with those calculators is a lot of people overestimate the amount of movement they do per week. I know in a lot of those
Yeah.
calculators, it's like, are you active, highly active, athlete level, whatever it is. And a lot of people are like, I'm highly active because maybe they walk around a lot with their work. Maybe they do go to the gym once or twice a week. But highly active is thinking like you are working at that elite level, like really elite level. I tell a lot of my clients, actually underestimate what you're doing and go, okay, I'm actually just lightly active, because we don't want to rely too much on your exercise and your fitness to lose weight. We really want to be focusing on the nutrition side of things to be losing weight. Oh, another point. If you're still using MyFitnessPal, a lot of clients make this mistake, is there's a feature on MyFitnessPal, if you still use that app, that when you're tracking, if you have your movement from your watch or whatever you do connected to MyFitnessPal, it adds on. For example, if you go for a walk, it will add on 300 extra calories that you think you can eat. But realistically, it's such an average mark that really we want to deactivate that feature and not rely on the extra calories that you get from just doing a bit of movement for the day. Just rely on the nutrition side of things.
Yeah, you want to be able to plan your diet so that you lose weight without needing to exercise, so that anything that you burn through exercise is just bonus.
Yeah.
But an analogy that really helps this click for people is, imagine your laptop charge, how much energy it has, is the body fat, and you're trying to make the battery go down on your phone, right? If you have it plugged in and you've got energy constantly coming in because you're eating a lot of food, no matter how much you use the laptop, it's not going to go down in energy because it's constantly got an inflow of energy coming in. It's not in an energy deficit. So it's not until you're like, okay, I'm going to unplug it from the charger so that it hasn't got a ton of energy coming in. So I've got a calorie deficit, I've got an energy deficit. Then when you use your laptop or your phone, it's going to start depleting the charge. Whereas trying to out-train a bad diet, trying to lose calories by training is very hard, because if you don't change your nutrition, it's like you've got the charger still plugged in and you're trying to just work the laptop really hard, put all these programs on, just work it really hard to try and out-train the calorie deficit. You're trying to out-train the diet, and it just doesn't work that way. So what I like to do is just really plan for success just with the nutrition, so you can lose weight through nutrition. And then anything you do with exercise is just going to be bonus.
Yeah, I love that. Now, I think we should get into the second point, is what are your calories made up of? And your calories are made up of your macronutrients. So we've got your proteins, we have your fats, and we have your carbs. Now, you will definitely see the word protein thrown around in most supermarkets, most advertisements these days, because it is fantastic. It's a great macronutrient, especially if you're training in the gym. But today we really want to talk about why these macros are really important. But first, I always tell my clients that your calories determine how you look. So your calories will determine whether you put on weight, stay the same, or lose weight. But your macronutrients, what your calories are made up of, is going to determine how you feel. And what I mean by that is, if I've been given a 1,500 calorie diet, I could have 1,500 calories of M&Ms and still lose weight if that was my calorie deficit number, right? However, I would not feel great. I would feel terrible. So that's why we like to teach our clients the 80-20 approach, where 80% of our nutrition should be focused on good macronutrients filled with great protein, carbs, and fats, and balancing that correctly. And then 20% of that food is our fun food. Fun for our mental health, where it's the chocolates, the M&Ms, the fun Easter eggs, etc. Because we believe, if you eliminate most of those fun foods, or the foods that really give you joy, the foods that you enjoy eating with friends and family, you are eventually going to binge them, because our mind has this little tick in it where it's like you have that fear of missing out. You feel like you're never going to have it again, and you want to have it. Where if you always have those foods introduced into your diet and they're constantly in there in a balanced way, you never get that kind of inkling to be like, oh, I want to eat so much chocolate right now, or I want to have 5 cups of coffee. It's still in your diet, but you fit it in to make sure that you're not just feeling good with your energy levels in your body, you're also feeling good mentally.
Yeah, I love that. Do you want to maybe tell them what each of the macronutrients is for?
Yeah, so let's start with protein. Protein, because it's the most important, I would say. I know when we start with clients and get them tracking for the first time, we actually only start them with calories and protein to begin with, because we believe those are the most important factors of weight loss or whatever like specific physique goal that you have. Now, protein is an incredible macronutrient that helps rebuild the muscle fibers. So in the gym, when you're working to failure and you're really pushing the muscle to its max capacity, what happens is the muscle fibers tear. Now, we get those small micro tears in the muscle, which you may be thinking, oh my goodness, I don't want to tear my muscles. It's a great thing. However, we need a certain amount of protein in our diet. So think your chicken breasts, your eggs, your Greek yogurts, your minces, your steaks, really good natural sources of protein in your diet to help rebuild the muscle back together and stronger. If there's not enough protein in your diet, then you're not going to have that last step of the muscle building process to complete.
Yeah, I always say that when you train in the gym, that's stimulating muscle growth, like you're breaking down the muscles, but then the muscles are rebuilt using protein, which are the building blocks to rebuild those muscles. So
Yes.
protein is really good for making you feel full and for rebuilding your muscle.
Yes.
And the reason why training is so important is because when you train for muscle growth, to loop it back to the foundations, which was calories, the more you build muscle, the higher your metabolism goes. Because the more muscular your physique gets, the bigger your physique gets,
It's
right?
like the bigger your
Relative to
engine
yourself.
is.
Exactly. And so if you think of a truck engine versus a motorbike engine, trucks are much bigger. They cost a lot more energy to maintain the truck driving.
Yes.
Versus a motorbike, it's a much smaller engine, and anyone who drives a motorbike knows that you barely spend money on fuel because it's so small, it's so easy, so it just drives so easily and it doesn't burn much petrol.
Where I
much fuel.
feel a lot of, especially, I hate to stereotype here, but a lot of female clients do this wrong where they just focus on weight loss with just nutrition. So they'll eat really low calories and eventually, yes, they will lose weight, which is amazing. But then you get to a point where you can't eat any less. Like you're depleted now. You can't go any less than you're currently at, but you have no muscle mass now to maintain a big engine in your body that is constantly working. So if your body's not working and using up these extra calories constantly, keeping these muscles going, and you have no muscle mass, your body kind of just goes, well, where do I go from here? As soon as you start eating a normal diet again, you start to put weight back on. But if you have a good amount of muscle mass stored up, then your body works constantly to maintain that. It's working this engine over time, which is a really cool thing. A lot of females also, I know males and females, I used to work in group training and I'd see people look the same all the time. Like 2 years later, I'm like, they train 3 times a day and they're still looking the same. It's because a lot of the time people train hard, they may push themselves to failure, but they're, like I said before, they're not completing the last most important factor of muscle growth, which is having enough protein in their diet. Now, a lot of people may be like, oh, I'm really trying to get my protein in, but they're wasting their protein through getting it through like protein bars, protein cookies, things like food items that are quite highly processed that don't have that much protein but are quite high in calories. We recommend focusing more on natural sources of protein that are actually lower in calorie but higher in natural protein. It allows you to have more food, but it also allows you to hit your protein goals quicker so you don't have to keep eating so much protein throughout every single meal and waste your calories on it. Once you've hit your protein goal of the day, and everyone's different, once you've hit your protein goal, you don't have to keep eating protein. Go and enjoy carbs, go and enjoy fats, and go enjoy your M&Ms.
Yeah. So if you've got a protein goal, so the first thing we like to do is always set calorie goal and never forget the foundations. Always hit the calorie target you're aiming for. Then you want to optimize hitting the protein target. We recommend between 1.6 to 2.5 times your goal body weight. So if you're trying to lose
keyword
weight,
there, goal
body weight. So if you're trying to lose weight and you're currently like 150 kilos, you don't need to eat
don't eat over
150
200 grams.
kilos times, let's just do 2 times body weight. You don't need 300 grams of protein.
But I understand why people get confused by that. So I love that you said goal weight there.
Exactly. So I would go for whatever your goal body weight is, you would multiply that by 1.6 up to, on the higher end, 2.5 grams per kilo of body weight of your target. And that will give you your protein target to aim for per day.
Yes.
Okay. Now, one of the things to remember with this is it's a range. And a lot of people ask me, okay, well, what determines whether you go for the higher end of the range or the lower end of the range? And so if you're in a calorie deficit, then you want to eat the higher end of the range for a few reasons. Number one, it keeps you fuller when you eat more protein.
Yes.
And number two, you have more protein to help offset any effects to muscle wastage. So when you're in a calorie deficit, sometimes if you're not training, your body wants to get rid of muscle mass to try and basically lower your calories to make it even. To counter that, you want to strength train and you want to eat the higher end of the protein, aiming for around that 2 times up to 2.5 times your goal body weight. If you're in a calorie surplus, let's say if you're doing a lean bulk or you're not trying to lose weight anymore, you don't need to eat the higher end anymore. That's where you can reduce down to the lower end of 1.6 times your target body weight. Basically, because when you've got a calorie surplus, your body's not trying to get rid of muscle mass at all.
Yeah, it doesn't feel threatened.
Yeah, so you don't need to eat that higher end. And because you've got more calories you can eat, you don't need the satiating, the filling effects of protein.
Yeah, and then you start to feel those calories with more carbs to really push in the gym. So yeah, I love those points. Well done.
Yeah, so we talked about protein being a muscle builder, right? Like it rebuilds the muscles and it's really good for making you feel fuller. What about carbs and fats? What are those used for?
Yeah, so carbs and fats, I only give these kind of goals to clients when I see that they've been hitting their calories for quite a significant amount of time, but also hitting their protein goals. Once they've proven that they can really hit those targets with those habits consistently, we know they're ready for those next levels to go, okay, here's a carb goal and here's a fats goal. Now, carbs is your energy source. So when people say I'm reducing carbs from my diet, I have a bit of a cry because carbs are so important and beneficial to giving you energy in the gym, but also overall giving you energy for every single day. Now, carbs are a different source of energy because your body quickly digests them and uses them as energy very quickly. So that's why they will say have carbs before 30 minutes before your workout, for example. And when you go into those workouts, you feel that big energy boost. It's like charging you up, like zoom. I don't know, I'm trying to think of a cartoon character, but it's like charging yourself up for those workouts, and you go in, you deplete the energy that you've intaked with that food, and then you finish the workout, which is incredible. So you may have things like lollies, you may have things like bananas, English muffins, etc. But you want to be making sure your overall carb intake over the day is there as well. Now, it's not as important as protein, but it's still important to keep in your diet. Also to balance your moods. I find when I don't have carbs, my mood swings kind of go crazy as well. So I love having carbs. I think it's so important to have in your diet. Another thing is your fats. A lot of females see the word fat and think, nope, I'm not having any fats. But we're talking about your healthy fats here. Think about your salmons, your nuts, your olive oils, avocados and things like that. We want to be making sure that we've got enough fats in our diet, not too much, but we want to be making sure we've got enough fats because they're really good for your hormonal balance, especially for females.
Yeah, same thing with males.
Yes.
So fats help to produce hormones. So to recap, you've got calories, which all of the macronutrients, no matter what you eat, contains calories, right? And calories will dictate whether you're gaining or losing fat. If you're eating more calories than your body needs, you're going to be storing body fat. If you're eating less calories than your body needs, you'll be losing body fat regardless of which macronutrients you're eating. Then of the macronutrients, you have protein, which is for building muscle and for helping you feel fuller. You have fat, which is used for hormone production, and fat is a slow burn energy source. And then carbs are a fast burn energy source. So the body prefers carbs for energy because it's really good for like high intense exercise, like it's fast burn energy. Once you're out of carbs, then your body starts to use fats as a fuel source, but it's a slower burning fuel source.
Yes. Think about marathon runners, for example. When we did our marathon, I think it was 5 kilometers, we'd have one of those gels, which is straight pure glucose, which is carbohydrates. And it's so your body can quickly, easily digest those carbs and use them as energy very quickly. I'm not on my run eating like a chicken breast. Like it would take, because protein takes longer to digest in the stomach, my body wouldn't use it as quick as it would if I just had straight carbs.
Yeah, there's a reason why when diabetics, if anybody like is feeling faint, lightheaded, anything like that, there's a reason you give them lollies or glucose. And it's because carbohydrates, which is basically sugar and lollies, is a quick burn. It's a quick access energy that allows you to fuel. And same thing, mid-workout, like a marathon, if you're running, your body can't process fats quickly because it's a slow burning fuel. So it needs carbs to be able to quickly digest and get the energy immediately.
Yes.
So that's where our advice for most people is focus on calories, focus on protein, and then let carbs and fats fall however you prefer them.
Yep.
As long as you're not going over the calories, and you'll get the fat loss results. If you want to optimize for exercise, then time your carbohydrates before and after your exercise, or even during if you're doing some long-term exercise. But otherwise, outside of exercise, the rest of the day, I focus more on fats.
Yeah, I'm in the same position now where I don't have a specific carb and fat goal, but I do have a calorie and protein specific goal. So the way that I do it, and most of my clients do it this way now too, is if I have a calorie intake, for example, of 2,000 calories, when I'm planning my food for the week or the day ahead, I always plan my protein first and get the best, like I go, okay, what's the most natural, easiest way to get all my protein in? Usually it's in my main 3 meals. In my breakfast, my lunch, and my dinner. If I can hit my protein goal with those calories first and use that budget up, then with the rest of my calories, let's say I've got maybe 1,200 calories left over, for example, I'll then go, okay, for the leftover 1,200 calories, I'll fill a bit with carbs, fill a bit with fats, but I'm not very specific where I'm like, it has to be this exact number right now. But if I'm in a season where I want to be exact, I have a specific physique goal and I'm at that level of being very advanced, that's when I'd set a goal.
Yeah. So again, the higher levels of the pyramid that we go through, they don't matter as much for results if you're hitting the foundations, which is hitting the right calorie target and hitting the right protein target.
Yep.
And then just allowing your fats and carbs to land how they do. But if you want to optimize it, then optimize carbs around your workouts and then have high protein and high fat throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah. Now, in my own personal opinion, I feel as though the foundations, the calorie level and the macronutrient level, are the most important. And realistically, I personally kind of stop here. I go, you know what? If I'm doing these two correctly and doing them well and consistently, I don't really worry about the top 3. But if you want to keep going to those next levels, which are still beneficial, the next level is the micronutrients. So we've just talked about macronutrients. Now we're going to talk about micronutrients.
Yeah, so this is the funny thing, right? When you optimize the foundations, you often actually end up optimizing the higher levels anyway, just because you start eating healthier foods. Like if you start eating your calories and hitting in protein, like your protein target, naturally you're going to start eating healthier foods to hit those lower calorie targets, which means that your micronutrients, which is all the vitamins, the minerals that you're getting from your food, when you eat healthier foods, when you eat fruits, when you eat vegetables, then you get more of those vitamins and minerals.
Yeah. So I find even for myself, I'm not very much going, oh, am I having enough vitamin this and minerals today? I know by eating 80% of my food in my diet being quite whole food diet, I don't really have to worry because I know that diet is fulfilling level 3 there. Yeah. And making me feel good. It's all about how you're feeling. So like I said before, we don't want to waste your calories on just like M&Ms and Easter egg chocolate. We want to be making sure that 80% is whole foods, but a lot of it is filled with a lot of fiber as well. So think, your leafy greens, your fruit intake, not just good for that vitamin mineral intake, but it's also really good for your digestion as well. So a lot of our clients will be like, haven't gone to the toilet in a while. And that happens sometimes due to eating in a lower calorie deficit because your body doesn't have to work as hard because there's not much food in your system right now. So it doesn't have to digest as much. When we have those issues, sometimes we go, okay, let's make sure your fiber intake is that little bit higher to help your digestive system go that little bit more regular.
Yeah. Now with the micronutrients, when you're looking at the vitamins and minerals, the best thing you can do is actually just go to your doctor and get a blood test to see if you are deficient in any of these different vitamins and minerals. And then there's going to be specific things you can do to improve the different ones that you're deficient in. But as a general rule, if you're just looking to try and beyond, that's the definitive way to know what you're low in and what to target for yourself. But if you're just like, okay, I just want to make sure that I'm eating a whole food diet that's kind of hitting majority of the vitamins and minerals, my basic advice to most people is to focus on eating whole foods, so things that are non-packaged, non-processed foods. And then the second thing is to not just eat one source of protein or one source of carb. So make sure that you're rotating the foods that you're eating, because different types of protein, if you're looking at it, have different vitamins and minerals associated with the types of protein. So don't just eat beef. Sometimes eat salmon. That way you're going to get the healthy omega-3s. You're going to get the different things from salmon. Eat some lamb sometimes. Eat some pork. Eat some tofu. So you go and you rotate the different sources. And it's the exact same thing with fruits and vegetables. Don't just have your go-to fruit and that's it. Rotate them. And that's why, God created the world with seasons, so that it does rotate the fruits, the vegetables, the foods that are available to us, so that we do rotate through the different vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, I like that you brought up as well about the blood testing, because a lot of us will just kind of self-diagnose and be like, oh, I need more vitamin D, I need more B12, whatever it is, because maybe your friends have gone through that and maybe they're supplementing things, etc. Really, like if you don't need to supplement something or you don't need to eat extra of something, don't do it. Like I said before, you don't have to have extra protein on top of your goal. You don't need to have extra vitamins and minerals on top of what you really need to have that intake of. So I know for myself, like I've overcome in this last year my fear of blood tests, which I'm really happy because I can now regularly, like I'd say every 6 months, just get a checkup on all my hormones, but also my levels, and just make sure that everything is where it's needed. So for example, a few years ago, I was quite low in vitamin D, but then I was like, well, it's probably because I'm, a ghost and I don't go out in the sun. So that's why I did a marathon as well. So it would get me out training in the sun, and now my vitamin D levels are incredible.
Yeah. And the best thing to do is literally just get the blood test, and then you can just ChatGPT, what was the one that you're deficient in, and what do I need to do to improve that? So what foods have high levels of that to improve it? And then you can obviously talk to your doctor too to have different ways to improve it. But
actually, that moves into our next area really well with timing of different foods. So for example, it is important, but it's not that important sometimes depending on your goals when you're eating certain foods. But like we were just saying with that example there is, if you know you're deficient in some sort of vitamin or mineral and you look up in ChatGPT and it goes, oh, eat this certain food to improve this certain mineral or vitamin, then sometimes it will say, eat away from coffee, for example, so it absorbs properly. Have this with an orange to make sure that iron absorbs. Like there are certain times and certain ways to make sure that your body is absorbing these vitamins, minerals properly. So that's actually a really good thing to look into as well.
Yeah. And some of these things can help to improve the metabolism, to improve your energy levels, to improve those different things. So make sure that you do get your blood works done. If you haven't done it for a while, maybe this is your chance to go do it, because these can help fill the gaps to help you have more energy, to help your metabolism be higher. Like a lot of people say, I can't lose weight because of my thyroid issues and things like that. But the thing is that you can still lose weight with thyroid issues. It might just be slightly harder because if you have something that's lowering your metabolism, then you can still lose weight. You just have to eat lower than whatever your metabolism is, whilst also focusing on fixing whatever it is that's lowering it. So if that's building muscle, if it's eating more food more regularly, not more calories, but just more food.
Yeah.
If it's, fixing the hormonal issues to help your thyroid, then it can be those types of things.
Yeah, I have Hashimoto's. I only found out last year that I have Hashimoto's disease. And I've had a lot of clients in the past and still having their inquiry forms. I have Hashimoto's, so it's really hard for me to lose weight. And I love getting on calls with them because I'm like, oh, I also have Hashimoto's. And they're like, oh. And I'm like,
excuses gone.
I'm going to break that limiting belief off you because yes, it may make things harder for you, but it's not impossible. Don't look at any limiting, diagnosis as like a setback. Just go, okay, it's a little bit of a wall that's higher than other people's, but I can still overcome that. Now, back to level 4 of the foundation pyramid here is about the timing of food. And a lot of clients will say to me, Mel, oh my goodness, I can't lose weight because I'm eating after 7 p.m. I don't know when to have my carbs. When should I have protein? Should it be 30 minutes straight after my workouts? A lot of these things come from like these myths that we've believed from years and years and years ago. And a lot of them have been debunked over the years. So even, for example, you have to have protein 30 minutes after your workout, otherwise the window closes. Realistically, it comes down to the amount of protein intake overall the entire day that really matters, and not that small little window where you may just get the best protein intake. It doesn't really matter. Eating after 7 p.m. We eat at 9:30 p.m. due to our work sometimes. Yes, you may not digest it properly before bed, but overall, it's not going to impact your weight loss if you're in a calorie deficit. You may fluctuate the next morning because you haven't digested properly and you've gone to bed with a full stomach, but realistically, over time, it's not going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah, and sometimes it's like there's some half-truths behind some of these myths. So when people say don't eat after a certain time, it's really because when people eat late night foods, it's not that eating the late night foods was the thing that's stopping them losing the weight. It's that when they eat late night foods, it's chips, desserts, biscuits, like all these different snacks and foods that, are high calorie. So then therefore they're not in a calorie deficit because of those foods, not because of when they ate them, but just because of, eating those foods.
Yes.
And that's why they're not losing the weight. So what the research has found is that it's the amounts of things that matter the most throughout the day, not when you're having those things. So the human body is very good at storing temporarily and using it whenever. So as long as you're having enough protein throughout your day and you're hitting the daily total, it doesn't matter when you do it. But in saying that, if you're trying to hit, let's say 150 grams of protein per day, it's going to be harder if you leave it till dinner time.
Yes,
and that's
spread it out.
Yeah, then you're gonna have to eat a massive portion of protein at once. So for practicality reasons, spreading it out makes it easier to hit your targets for any of these goals. But don't stress if you can't do that. Like, let's say if you're doing intermittent fasting and you're fasting half the day or something like that, you don't have to stress, because as long as you're hitting the daily targets, you're then going to still be optimizing for protein, for muscle growth, for all of those things too.
Yeah. Another thing as well is a lot of my clients get really scared and worried if they've got a goal of 150 grams of protein for the day and they only hit 110. They think the next day is like a write-off. I'm like, no. Like, your body hasn't shut down overnight and then you restart the next day and it has a complete zero, like you're at 0% again of protein. It's a whole intake of, think about more of a weekly goal of protein. So if I am under 1 day of my protein, yes, it's going to make it harder the next day. If I'm at 150 grams, I have to have a 40 grams extra the next day to make up for it. But you still can catch up over other days. Just like calories, if you eat under or over 1 day, you balance it out throughout the rest of the week. The same thing with your macronutrients. I like to obviously try and hit my targets as close as possible because it's good for digestion, it's good for your gut health to be able to do that every day. But don't sweat it if over the weekend, usually it is. If you don't hit your protein goals, guess what? Over the week, just add 10 grams extra every single day.
Yeah. And it's one of those things where your body still has stores of protein from yesterday that it can use to rebuild your muscles. So if you ate slightly less, you didn't hit your target, don't worry about it, because you've still got the protein from the other days. If you're consistently low in protein though, then that's where it might become an issue, because your body, if it hasn't got enough, will start to break down a bit of muscle tissue to get protein from those areas.
And we don't want that.
No.
Now, the last area, which is probably our most asked question, especially from new clients or messages on social media, is what supplements should I be taking? Now, if you are doing all the bottom of the period, those levels and those foundations correctly, you really shouldn't need that many supplements. I see people drinking.
Well, it's in the name, right?
It's a supplement.
Like, supplements mean to supplement something you're not getting enough of.
But they aren't magic. And you will see a lot of, like, if you look at the back of most supplement containers, it will say, for example, if you're trying to lose weight and you look at the back of OxyShred, for example, it will say only works in unison with a calorie deficit. So it doesn't help you lose weight unless you are in a calorie deficit.
Which already makes you lose weight without having OxyShred.
Exactly. So you don't really need those things. Whenever, like, let's use OxyShred, for example. I'm not against anything. Like, I'm not going, oh my God, don't have it.
We're not just any fat burner.
Fat burners, when people say that to me, I go, what is your reasoning for having it? If they say to lose weight, I told them, don't waste your money, focus on a calorie deficit. It's cheaper, it's easier, it's healthier. If people take it because they love that placebo effect, one of my clients loves having it because she thinks as soon as she has it, she's like, oh, I just feel energized for the gym. Go for it. If you want to spend your money and have that as your pre-workout and your energy source, I am all for it, and that is completely fine. So I always come back to the reasoning behind why people want certain things. The only two things I supplement is protein powder if I am low in my natural sources of protein. So I may have a protein shake, or I may have protein powder in my overnight oats or wheat bix, but then also creatine. Now, those are the most highly research supplements, which is probably the most beneficial, but I still find that I don't really need them as well. I feel like I'm one of the most natural people because I do the foundations really well, so I don't have to worry about those things. Plus, why would I waste money on taking powders when I can naturally do it myself through yummy food?
Yeah. And it's really in the name. Like supplements are great if you're deficient in things or not consistently getting enough of them. So that's where, if you are already hitting your calorie deficit, if you're already hitting your protein targets, and if your vitamins and minerals, you've done your blood work and your bloods are all great, then you most likely won't need any supplements because you're able to just run off the food that you're eating, right? And then you can save some money there. If you're wanting to optimize things and you're deficient in certain areas, that's where you can look at what supplements you can have to top up those areas. So if you're deficient in magnesium, take some magnesium to pop it up. Vitamin C, like any of those vitamins, any of the minerals, iron, all of those, that's where supplements can help fill the gaps in your nutrition where there are gaps. Some people like to have a multivitamin to try and, again, fill in the gaps that they might have. We personally don't do that. Some people like to have protein powder. We still have protein powder because it's a convenient way to hit your protein targets, and
But
you
we're
can
not
add it
having
into
like
recipes.
4 or 5 scoops a day.
No, there's
One
nothing.
max.
There's nothing magic about it. It only fills the gaps and makes it easier to hit the targets if you're not getting it through your diet naturally.
Think of it this way. Like, I really like to hit my macronutrients in the most natural way possible. So when I look at a protein powder, for example, if I look at the ingredients and it's 20 ingredients, that is 20 ingredients that my body is trying to break down. And like, no wonder why your gut health is struggling. No wonder why you're getting those, queasy feelings and those pains and tightness in your stomach, because your body is trying to break down 20 ingredients instead of just having a plain chicken breast or like an egg or something like that, Greek yogurt that has quite minimal ingredients at all. It's very natural. And then you can just have that instead, which is probably higher in protein, less money than buying a whole thing of protein powder. Again, I'm not against it. It's just there as a just in case. Like, for example, we'll still have protein cookies and protein bars on like road trips if we really find that we can't bring like, our meal prep and things like that. But it just depends on the season you're in.
Yeah, and for us, it's just supplementing and filling the gaps
If I need to.
in our nutrition when we have gaps.
And that's why it's so important to make sure you do your regular blood work. You make sure that you are keeping track of that's why tracking is so good, to make sure that you can see the vitamins and minerals that you're having, so you can see if you're hitting your fiber intake, your macro intake and everything like that. If you find you're really finding it hard to reach something, 100%, this is where supplements can take over. But don't have it flipped around the pyramid where supplements are first and you're thinking calories is last. Have it as a last resort. I actually can't remember the last time I've actually taken a supplement.
Yeah, well, beyond protein powder. But we look
Yeah.
at protein powder as food because
Yeah,
really it's...
I don't look at it as a supplement.
Like, protein powder is really, like, when people think, oh, is it okay to have protein powder? Like, is it a drug? Is it this? All protein powder is they're just getting milk.
Yeah.
And then when you get rid of milk and you make it condensed milk, then what they're doing is they're getting rid of the fats and the carbs out of like powdered milk to then get protein powder, because they've gotten rid of the carbs and the fats. So you've just left with the protein from the milk. So when you're looking at protein powder, it's really just food. You're just eating milk if you're eating whey protein. So we look at it as like a food. Whereas what we're talking about is like all of the other types of supplements that are out there. There's BCA. There's tons of supplements on the market.
Yes.
And they will sell you the dream that they do all of these different things. But the reality is, if you do the foundations first, you will get the results even without taking the supplements. And most of the supplements won't work if you're not doing the foundations as well. And like Mel was saying, if you look at the back of any fat burner supplement, it'll say that it only works in conjunction with a calorie deficit diet, which already makes you lose fat in the first place. And when you look at the research, they're legally able to tell you the benefits that they have on the back of them, because they do have those benefits. Like a fat burner, the green tea extract, like there's things in the fat burners that actually do increase your metabolism. But what they don't tell you is it only increases it by 10, 20, 30, 100 calories per day, which isn't that much. Like, it's just, if you had one less bite of food, that's the amount that it's helping increase your metabolism.
Most of them are laxatives.
Yeah.
It just really makes you go to the toilet. I don't know. I'm just very much like, I don't really need those things. And what I do think though, and this is not us judging at all, if, like I said before, if you're taking a supplement because it actually gets you into the headspace and the mindset of being in the gym, the headspace of like being an athlete, go for it. Like, I know a lot of my clients love going to the gym with the BCAAs, like, the colored drink in their shaker, and they just feel like every time they take that sip, it's a reminder of why they're at the gym, and it's like, it makes them feel strong and worthy. I go for it. I am all for that. But if you're specifically taking these supplements to be like, if I don't take this, I'm not going to get results, then this is your reminder that if you do the foundations correctly, these absolutely mean nothing. Like, those supplements are just there to earn money off you, and usually you're wasting your money if you do the other things correctly.
Yeah, they're preying on your weaknesses 100%. And they're preying on your fears, and they're just trying to, like, again,
quick fixes.
We don't want you to hear that we hate supplements, because we don't. We take them. They're great for filling the gaps. They're great for supplementing gaps in your nutrition. We just don't like when people think that they have to take them to get results, or they think, okay, I'll start taking these supplements and therefore I don't need to diet, or therefore I don't need to put the work in with, exercising.
Yes.
And that's where we find that supplements can really lead people down the wrong track when they're focusing on that. But we love them if they help people stay motivated, if they encourage them, as long as people realize that it's all the foundations that will get them the results, and the supplement is just the help to give you motivation and to fill the gaps in your nutrition.
Yeah, I'm all for it. Like I have my certain things that I like to do to get me in the headspace for any kind of thing. Like I remember before I played netball, I had certain kind of rituals and different foods that I would eat. Again, they're not miraculous, but it would get me into the headspace of being a winner and an athlete. So if those drinks and those supplements do that for you, go for it. So yeah, I think we should just quickly do an overview. Or do you have another point?
Yeah, well, I was just going to mention, because it's very popular right now, peptides, right?
Yes,
so
that could be a whole episode.
Peptides are basically a supplement as well. And you can see that with this pyramid, just because you take a peptide, it doesn't undercut anything that we've just gone through today.
Yes.
Like we have clients who take peptides who actually don't lose weight.
Yep.
They don't lose weight for a while, and that's why they come to us, because they're like, hey, I'm taking these peptides. I don't understand why I'm not losing weight, because the doctor said if I just take these, I won't be hungry, I won't have the food noise in my head, and I can just basically eat whatever I want and I'll lose weight, right? And then no, they don't start losing weight. They end up just staying the same. Or they might initially lose weight and then they plateau and they don't lose weight anymore. And it's because they're thinking that the supplement undercuts everything we went through. And that's what we're saying, is that supplements can help. If you have peptides, they can help get rid of the food noise. They can help, blunt your hunger so you're not feeling as hungry, and therefore you might eat slightly less calories.
But don't expect it to do the work for you.
But you can't go and eat KFC, Macca's, all these things, because even though you might not be eating much food, the calories that you're eating are still way too much, and therefore you're not going to be losing the weight.
Yeah, I have many opinions. However, that could be a whole other episode. But yeah, don't think that these things, especially like peptides, are the answer to everything. And if you're looking for that quick fix and you're not willing to put the work in as well, it's not going to work for you. And that's the only thing I'm going to say about that, because...
Yeah. But like with anything, this is what we think with the supplement category. Use them if they help you follow everything else better. But don't use them as a shortcut to not have to do the basics, to not have to exercise, to not have to eat healthy, because that's not how they work.
Yes. Now, let's have a little overview of the nutrition pyramid, what we've talked about today. Level 1, foundations, is focusing on your calories. If you don't get your calories right, none of these other foundations in these areas are going to matter. Number 2 is your macronutrients. So once you've hit your calories, make sure your calories are filled with 80% of good macronutrients, your proteins, fats, and carbs, and still 20% of that being your fun foods as well.
Yeah.
Then we're going to go into...
Focusing more on the protein and fiber.
Yeah, focus on those first. And then if you want to go that little bit more advanced, start working into the carbs and fats as well. Level 3?
The micronutrients. So we recommended going to get a blood test to see which ones you may or may not be deficient in. And then just eating a well-rounded diet where you're eating lots of different colors of fruits and vegetables and lots of different sources of proteins, or just any type of food you're eating. So you're not always eating the same rotations of the same foods.
Yep. And number 4 and 5. Number 4 is the timing of your meals. Not that important, but there are some factors that do play into this where it is important. And then number 5 is the supplements. Again, we're not against supplements, but only supplement if you need to supplement.
Yeah, if supplements help you stick to everything we just talked about, then go for it. It's going to help you. If you're supplementing to shortcut doing everything that we just talked about, then that's the wrong mindset and it's not going to work for you.
Okay. Well, we hope this episode blessed you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for commenting, sharing us on social media, following us on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts. And we hope you live the Probody lifestyle.